Over the past few years, I have become more open to trying game series that I had ignored or written off in the past. Fire Emblem, Final Fantasy, The Legend of Zelda, though that was more so a lack of proper hardware, not lack of interest in the series. And now, especially in the midst of the quarantine, I have a lot of time on my hands to revisit these well-loved franchises, many of which now rank among some of my favorite games ever made. My first review on this channel was for Final Fantasy VII Remake, but right before that game came out, another series was revitalized as well. I am of course talking about Half-Life Alyx. My history with the Half-Life games is non-traditional, to say the least. Around 8 years ago, a friend of mine recommended that I try Half-Life 2. When I questioned whether or not I needed to play the first one, he assured me that I didn't, and pointed out that the second one had way better graphics. At the time, I accepted this line of logic, and acquiesced to playing Half-Life 2. Now, I need to preface this by explaining a little bit about how I tend to enjoy my games. Most games that I hold in the highest regard have excellent narratives. That's not to say that I don't enjoy games that are light on narrative, but when games have a narrative focus, that is what makes them stand out to me. So going into Half-Life 2 knowing nothing of the story of Half-Life 1, nothing about Gordon Freeman's journey up to this point, well, let's just say that Half-Life 2 didn't really stick with me at the time. I completed the first part of the game, and then promptly forgot about it, and never played episode 1 or 2, or the first Half-Life. And honestly, I'm kind of glad I didn't get into the series back then. I got to live the past 8 years watching everyone else beg and plead for a third entry in the series, while remaining blissfully unaware of the pain that Half-Life fans had to endure in those long years of rabid anticipation. And then, after all this time, a new Half-Life game gets announced. It's not Half-Life 3, but a VR game called Alyx, and it's a prequel to Half-Life 2. I think this tempered a lot of ridiculously high expectations that the gaming community had going into the reveal and launch of the game. Nevertheless, this game was still speculated to be VR's killer app, and the biggest leap in quality since the creation of VR as a platform. If anyone was going to innovate and push boundaries, it was Valve. Now the question remains, did this game deliver on that expectation? I believe that it did. Half-Life Alyx reaches a level of consistent quality that I have yet to see other VR games achieve. It masterfully immerses the player in this disgusting, war-torn, zombie-infested world, wonderfully contrasted by moments of stark beauty and undeniable humanity. Whether you're trudging through abandoned subways filled with zombies, or admiring the eldritch artwork of a lonely denizen of the quarantine zone, there is a phenomenal attention to detail and interactivity that makes you really feel like you are there, at that place, in that moment. There were countless times while playing that I would forget the physical constraints of my room and accidentally smack something just outside my playspace. The audio plays an almost equally important role in pulling the player deeper into the world. The score is haunting, dense, and claustrophobic. Often the music and the ambient noise blend together, so you can't tell if what you're hearing is beautiful or frightening. Deep, reverberating tones of alien machinery penetrate even the deepest caves as headcrabs and other alien horrors pitter-patter through the vents above and the sewers below. And when the combat starts, the music ramps up to this fast-paced, techno-rock fusion that makes you feel like a badass while killing zombies and headcrabs. In similar fashion to the other two Half-Life games, the contrast between the mellow and moody ambient music and the hardcore and badass combat music makes those moments that much more impactful. Of all the myriad elements that make this game so phenomenal to play, the atmosphere, I think, is the most important. The visuals, combined with the score and the audio design, makes for a truly tense and exhilarating experience. But that doesn't mean that the gameplay and story aren't important as well. The act of shooting a gun in a video game is something that has been iterated on and nearly perfected many times. But it's a completely different feeling to do it in VR. Half-Life Alyx nails that feeling. When you are standing there, watching as the shambling zombie stumbles toward you, as you frantically attempt to reload your pistol and fire 4 well-aimed bullets into its headcrab-covered skull, you really feel immersed in the moment. And the game juggles combat mechanics in genius ways. When the game asks for you to go into the deepest and darkest sections of its neo-modern alien-infested sewers, and your only source of light is attached to the hand that also has to reload your weapon or throw an explosive barrel, it creates some truly intense moments of decision-making. Will you reach behind you and pull out that magazine, even if it means losing sight of the headcrab crawling after you? In these moments, of which there are many, the game accomplishes tension and horror that the original games can't compete with. In VR, everything becomes more real, and the stakes become life and death in those singular moments. There is also one section of the game in particular that I will not spoil, but trust me when I say that it is one of, if not the most interesting stealth horror sections in any video game. Just when you think the game has shown you all of its mechanics, it surprises you with new ways that using your hands can be made interesting. Everything, from the shooting to the exploration to the puzzles, is done with your hands. In a very analog sense, every single button press corresponds to something that your hands are actually doing, like pulling the trigger, gripping a door handle, or priming a grenade. There's nothing gamey about any of the mechanics. It all feels natural. And that brings us to the story. You play as Alex Vance, 5 years before the events of Half-Life 2. You must go on a journey to free your recently captured father from the claws of the Combine, and uncover even greater mysteries in the process. You are accompanied by the ever-charismatic Australian guy-in-the-chair Russell, who provides a very welcome injection of humor into the game, as well as serving as a person that Alex can bounce her thoughts off of as the game progresses.
Tell you what, Russell. If I die, I owe you a gun.
You owe me a gun anyway. That wasn't the gift. That's my gun.
They have some wonderful conversations that give us a deeper view into the world that these characters inhabit. The story will take you places that you will not expect, given that this is a prequel, and the implications of the narrative will be felt far into the next game if Valve decides to make one, which, at this point, I think they will. That brings me to the title of this video. I believe that we've entered a renaissance of Half-Life, in which a whole new generation of fans, like myself, will be able to get into the series. Half-Life Alyx is one part of this revival, serving to reacquaint us with the characters and setting of the Half-Life universe, while also recontextualizing events that will take place in the future. This game not only amazed me, but immediately sparked the interest in me to play through all the other Half-Life games. And that brings us to the second part of the Half-Life Renaissance, the excellent, fan-made reimagining of the groundbreaking Half-Life 1, which in my opinion, improves greatly on what was already a fantastic game. I am of course talking about Black Mesa, which conveniently released as a full game within a week of Half-Life Alyx release. Part 2 of this review series will be coming soon. Hi everyone, this is Aiden thank you all for watching. If you liked the video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing so you don't miss any of my reviews or other videos. If you'd like to see a specific review or game playthrough on my Twitch stream, please leave it in the comments below. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.